Now, we all know that the rectangular handle is the most anticipated and innovative advancement in the sport of axe throwing, and that's not according to me. But I know that there are some people that don't like how thin my handles are. So let's talk about how to make these handles fatter. I introduced this idea last year, the idea of using some scales to increase the width of the handle. And I'm just now getting around to the point where I've had the time to fine tune the design a little bit and have some made up to put on the website. So as far as what you get when you buy the kit, you get 2 scales, and that comes in 2 different shapes and designs. And then you get 2 jig pieces. These are used for making sure that your scales are centered on the handle. That's all that comes in the package. When it comes to things, extra tools and needs, you will need a bottle of wood glue. I got this for $4 at the local Ace Hardware. You will need some sandpaper. I use 120 grit. It's a good medium balance for what you need to achieve here. And you will need some form of clamping device. I prefer this type because it allows you to twist and really tighten the clamp. But if all you have is something like this will work as well. Step number 1, make sure your handle is cut to the appropriate length. You don't want to glue your scales onto a handle and then end up chopping 2 to 3 inches off of it, because that will make the grip uncomfortable. So first things first, chop your handle to whatever length you desire it. Second thing, if this is a brand new axe, you probably don't need to do anything as far as surface preparation, because I do send out every axe handle sanded down to 220 grit. If, however, you've been using your axe for a while, it's got your oils from your hand, or you've stained it or otherwise protected it, you will need to take your sandpaper, sand the surface down. Obviously, you don't need to do all 4 sides, just the 2 sides where you plan on putting the sandpaper. Wipe it off, blow it off, whatever you need to do to make sure that it's clean and free of debris. Once you've got your handle ready to go, surface prepared, you're going to take your 2 jig pieces and slide them onto the handle. A couple things to note about this. They are not going to be super tight. This is on purpose because I don't want people to accidentally break them while you're trying to glue your pieces in place. Next thing you'll need are your scales. You'll notice on the scales that one side looks nice and clean. The other side has little scorch marks from the laser that's used to cut these out. Honestly, it doesn't really matter which side you glue onto the handle, because by the time you're done sanding, it will all have gone away anyways. But you make up your mind what you want to do, and decide which side you want. Maybe put a little mark or something on either side. And then, just to help you envision it, you want to slide the scales into the jig. And again, notice that there's some room here side to side and a very small amount up and down. Again, this is intentional, so you don't have to fight it super hard to get things in place. But that is what your assembly is going to look like. Uh-oh. Pull that back out here. That is what the assembly will look like. One thing I forgot to mention, you will need paper towels. I'm going to pause the video and go get some paper towels. Okay, back with some paper towels. Once you're comfortable with your placement, obviously you want to make sure you're lined up well down there. You want to make sure your jigs are well and aligned here. You're just going to take your scale, a little bit of wood glue, and I run a nice thin bead down the length of it. And then use my finger to spread that out full coverage. Front to back, top to bottom. I'm going to do this one as well. I'm actually doing one of each style so that I can take pictures of them for the website here. Get a little bit of glue, smear it around. Once your glue is on, reposition your jigs. Actually, clean your fingers first. That's what the paper towels are for. Reposition the jigs. With the glue in place, you'll feel a little bit more resistance as you get those scales on. Make sure everything is lined up. You're going to have some glue to wipe off here at the bottom. Tip it on its side. And then clamp. Before you start tightening too much with these, recheck your alignment. And then start to tighten. As you do so, you'll start to see glue seeping out of the edges. That's exactly what you want to see. That gives you a nice tight bond. I'm going to move this up just because I have it sitting here. Use these to get a grip on the tip too. So when everything is said and done, you'll have your scales clamped in place on your handle, and then you just leave it to dry. Temperature and the specific glue you use will dictate how quickly it dries, and once it's done, we'll come back and do some sanding to round everything off. Okay, so I've left this sitting here for way longer than the glue up time needed, but I've been busy with other things, so I'm just getting back to it. Once you've got it done or glued up, everything comes off. In the original recording, I did not take the time to wipe up glue. That's mostly because stuff was in the way. It's not the end of the world. You can use a pocket knife or an X-Acto knife and just scrape it off, or most of the time it comes off as you sand, because what you're going to do is you're sanding down these edges to get things so that it's smooth and feels like one interface, leaving you with a little bit of an arch there. So again, not the end of the world, but if you want to save yourself a little bit of work when you're doing the glue up, take the time to wipe it off. Get in there with a Q-tip or whatever else you need to use, and that will save you some time. So glue mostly gone. At this point, it's time to just go to town with your sander. You can hand sand it, which will take a while, but has the benefit of not getting too far or getting away from you too quickly. I find if you're using too aggressive of a grit, that will cause problems. If you're using a mechanized solution like a hand sander or a random orbital sander, again, that can get away from you. But don't be afraid of it, because otherwise doing the hand stuff like I'm showing here, will take forever. Just because I've got other things to do, I'm not going to sit on this video and show me sanding it over and over and over again. You'll notice as I'm working on it, I'm working the edges. I'm not trying to sand a whole lot of the face. I'm working the edges, edge, 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 bring it down so that it's smooth. I'm going to turn off the video and actually go get my random orbital sander and do the work, and then I'll come back and finish this or show the finished product later. All right, you can see the final sanded version. See the layers of the ply exposed during the sanding. Notice I've sanded it so that the edges smooth into and join the ends or the edges of the handle itself. Again, with 1/8 of an inch on either side, this adds about 1/4 inch to the overall thickness. So instead of 3/4 inch thick, you're at 1 inch total side to side. This is the big handle. You can see the rounded version. This Baltic birch will take any kind of stain you want to throw at it very well. And then this is the more angular style, how it looks after it's been glued on and sanded down.